All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, after the Los Angeles Clippers dropped the first two games of their playoff series with the Dallas Mavericks at home, it's safe to say that it's gut check time for this team. You look at the Clippers so far in this series at the defensive end, they have been turned into Swiss cheese. Dallas has been doing whatever they want. More importantly, Luka Doncic has been scoring at will. I mean, you look at this series right now, and Luka is averaging 35 points per game to go along with 9 assists and 8.5 boards. And I mean, you look at it, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are supposed to be two of the better perimeter defenders in the NBA, and it ain't looking like it so far in this series. I mean, you look at it as a whole, and let's be realistic. The Clippers and Mavericks faced off last year in the first round of the NBA playoffs down in Florida. And, the Clippers were able to get past Dallas in 6 games, but let's not forget, Kristaps Porzingis was not healthy in that series for Dallas, and when he was ruled out for the remainder of that series, things changed in the Clippers' favor. Now this time around, the Mavericks have the services of Kristaps, and on top of that, Tim Hardaway Jr. is proving to be another viable scoring option behind Luka Doncic on this team. Now, for the Clippers, there are an array of questions that need to be answered in a hurry. I mean, offensively, and we've seen this in years past, the Clippers are really not an offensive, a perimeter team, rather, on the offensive end of the floor. And we see this team taking too many 3-point shots. And I've said that before, and I'll say it again. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George each are at their best either when they're driving or penetrating or posting up close to the basket. That is what they do the best. But for whatever reason, we consistently see this team out there taking 3-point shots, and you can be wide open all you want. But just because you're wide open doesn't mean that you can make the shot, and it doesn't mean that it's a smart basketball play. I think the Clippers need to be playing better basketball on both ends of the floor. We have not seen it so far in this series. Where is the Clippers bench? We talked about the depth for this team all year long, and now when they need it the most, that depth is not there. And if you were Clippers head coach Tyronn Lue, it's put up or shut up time in regards to making adjustments. You have to ask yourself, are you going to put Rajon Rondo in the starting lineup to begin game three? Because you look at what you have right now with Pat Bev is not working. It's not working. The Clippers need themselves a legitimate floor general who's going to get everybody else involved. And that ain't happening with Pat Bev running the show out there. Uh, the other thing for me is Boogie Cousins. I mean, DeMarcus Cousins, pre Achilles injury was one of the best bigs in the NBA. You cannot go around that. And, I know things have changed since the Achilles injury, but with that said, you're down 0-2 and Boogie Cousins has not played. So my thing is this, you're down 0-2, you have nothing to lose. So I think everything, and I mean everything, needs to be on the table for game three if you're the Clippers right now, if you want to try to turn this series around. I've said it before, with my partner Cal, we talked about this in a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you know what, can the Clippers be trusted? Because they are truly a Jekyll and Hyde team, and we are seeing that in this series. You never know what you're going to get from this club. We've seen it play out in the past couple of years where the Clippers tend to play down to their opponent and just think that they could turn it on whenever they can, whenever they want to. Now, I don't think this is a situation of the Clippers turning it down in this series. I think they're a little bit too confident. And, Dallas is just that good. And then on top of that, Dallas did not forget what happened last year. There's a lot of physicality in that series if people want to go back and review the tape of that series. And Dallas was not thrilled with how that series ended. And now they get the opportunity for the rematch here in 2021. Like I said in recent podcast here, you look at the Western Conference and, it's a gauntlet. There's no way that you can get around that fact. They're so deep, so many talented teams out there. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. It will not surprise me to see the lower seed in any one of these first round matchups move on to the second round, especially with this one, because this is the 4-5 matchup between the Clippers and the Mavericks. You look at it right now, all off season long, and even last year when the Clippers started to struggle in the playoff bubble when they blew that 3-1 lead in the Western Conference semis to the Denver Nuggets. You know what? It was all about Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers is out of touch. Doc Rivers is not getting it done with these guys, this, that, and the third. Well, guess what? Doc is in Philly right now coaching the Sixers, and the Sixers have the best record in the East, and they are the favorite by some people to advance out of the East and get to the NBA Finals. So Doc is taking care of his business, and his team has the opportunity to protect home court tonight versus the Washington Wizards and go up 2-0 as opposed to being down 0-2. So now it's Tyronn Lue's show, and I know Ty Lue was an assistant under Doc when Doc was there the past couple of years. But the bottom line is you can't blame Doc anymore. And at some point, these players have to take accountability for this and their inability right now to get it done. And you look at it, and one of the things you ask yourself, do the Clippers have what it takes to come back and win this series? And it's a yes and no answer. I will say yes, from the standpoint that the Clippers have the talent to go out there and win. But the bottom line is, I'm not sure if the Clippers are there cohesively as a unit to go out there and get it done. And in order for the Clippers to come back and win this series, they got to win 4 out of 5, 4 out of the next 5 games versus the Dallas Mavericks. And you look at the way that Luke is playing right now, I don't see any way that the Clippers are able to shut down what Doncic has done or limit him, rather, over the next 5 games in order to win this series. So if you are the Clippers, you have a bull by the horn right now. You have allowed the Mavericks to get all of the momentum possible, and now your back is up against the wall. And for the Clippers to win, they have to take their intensity level to the next mark. And I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that, because this is a Dallas team that is ready. This is a Dallas team that smells blood in the water, and they want to go out there and put the kibosh on the Clippers at the American Airlines Arena for games 3 and 4 and send them home packing and look to prepare for the winner of Utah Memphis. But you look at it right now, if this Clippers team is unable to come back and win this series, and at this point, I don't see it happening, you look at it and you say, one of the things for me, I think Steve Ballmer, the Clippers owner, is going to clear clean house. This is, I think, a prime example of that, because you look at Ballmer and you don't become a billionaire like he did by willing to be mediocre. This is a guy that wants the Clippers to have their own identity, who is trying to change the culture of this organization, who is trying to remove himself from the shadow that the Los Angeles Lakers have cast over the city of Angels for decades. This is why he is looking to get the Clippers their own arena and go out of the Staples Center. This is why he has changed the uniforms, and this is why he has changed the logo and a lot of the front office personnel since he has been there. And if you were Steve Ballmer, you have still been unable to not only get that championship, but get past the second round. So I look at it like this. What the Clippers have obviously ain't working. And I'll tell you one thing. If the Clippers fail to win this series, it is really, and I mean really, going to hurt the legacy of Kawhi Leonard. Because if you look at Kawhi, when Kawhi left the Spurs a few years ago, he was able to catch lightning in a bottle, because Kawhi left one of the better run organizations in the NBA, and he was able to find a good home with the Toronto Raptors. And of course, in his one season with the Raptors, he was able to win another NBA championship. But I think right now with Kawhi, it's all about, I can go anywhere and play and win. And that ain't the case. You looked at it, a better run organization with the Spurs, a better run organization in Toronto. And on top of that, in each spot, you had yourself a veteran point guard who can get the ball to you. Of course, you had Tony Parker in San Antonio, and then you had Kyle Lowry in Toronto. And now you've walked away from all of that. And the bottom line is the grass is not always greener. Paul George was there to be the sidekick, and Paul George has not done his part. Of course, Paul George struggled mightily in the playoffs last year. He has improved the scoring output, but when you think of Paul George again in regards to being one of the better defenders, he's not getting it done at that end of the court either. So you look at this right now, I really think that the Clippers are set up to have a huge reshuffling. I know there are rumors since Kawhi has the ability to opt out of his deal. And I think, if Kawhi were to opt out of his deal and go someplace else, the criticism on his part would intensify by the media and some fans alike. You look at this Clippers team as a whole, and I mean, this ain't good. I mean, I still thought going into Dallas was going to be a hugely formidable foe, and Dallas had more than a puncher's chance to win this series. But for me, if the Clippers, I want to see how they start off in Game 3, because if they start off in bad in Game 3, I would say don't even bother showing up for Game 4, because I really think things could get ugly. I think there is going to be some reshuffling within this organization. And if the Clippers don't win this series, they go in another direction. And, you look at it, you don't win championships on paper. And the Clippers have had the talent. I know a lot of people have felt that they were going to be, take that next step and get to the finals and win it. But you know what? They're not there. They simply are not there. And again, the West is so tough. You have to bring it every single night, especially in the postseason. And the Clippers ain't doing it. This Dallas team is legit. This Dallas team is the real deal. And this Dallas team, aside from having a good chance rather, to win this series against the Clippers, Dallas has a good shot to get out of the West and get to the NBA Finals. Do not, and I repeat, do not sleep on this team. They have a great owner in Mark Cuban. They're well coached by Rick Carlisle. He got this team their only NBA championship in 2011. He knows what it takes to win in this league. He also won a title as a member of the Boston Celtics as a player. So, you cannot overlook that championship pedigree that he brings to the table. But you look at the Clippers right now, I think they have the potential to be a team in disarray. It would not surprise me to see some finger pointing coming out of this organization soon, because that's what happens when you're put into a losing situation. You're looking around to say, hey, why aren't you doing this, as opposed to looking within? But the bottom line is talk is cheap. At the pro level, anybody could say anything, but it's put up or shut up time. And we're going to see what the Clippers are made of in game number 3. But I'll tell you like this, if it is anything, and I repeat, anything close to what we've seen from the Clippers from games 1 and 2 in this series, especially at the defensive end of the court, you know what? They're going to get swept. I'm not even going to give them a game. They're going to get swept if they don't improve their defense. You got to find a way to slow down this Mavericks offense. You have to make some type of adjustments. Like I said, Boogie Cousins definitely needs some minutes. If you're Ty Lue, you got to look at starting Rondo to get more flow in this offense. But there has to be a sense of urgency. And if that sense of urgency ain't there, they're done. You can't blame Doc Rivers. Like I said before, he is in Philly. And this is going to be something that is going to stay with Kawhi for the rest of his career from the standpoint as far as his critics go. Because anytime that you jump around from team to team and you don't produce, you're going to hear it. Look at the criticism that LeBron got in leaving Cleveland to go to Miami. And when he did not win that first year, he heard a lot of it. And of course, the same thing was when he went back to Cleveland. It took him a year before he got that championship. And then, the same thing with the Lakers. But you know what? If you're Kawhi, you have to deal with it, because the people are going to criticize you, whether you like it or not. But the Clippers are put themselves in a very tough spot against a very good team. And I would be highly surprised at this point to see the Clippers come back and win 4 out of the next 5 from a Dallas team that is in fuego right now. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. And if you liked what you heard on and saw on this live, please feel free to click on that like button. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 pounds of sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. Take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.